Instead of listening to the question I'm asking, listen carefully.
Repeat
okay?
the question.
The question is this: do you believe that anything that science tells you, or anything that science postulates as a theory, it is something that is set in stone, or is it susceptible to change in future?
Of course, it's not set in stone.
Okay, so can it be wrong?
Yes.
Okay, so can Darwinism be wrong?
Yes.
Good. So it can be wrong that you evolved from an ape.
It can be wrong.
Good.
Yes.
Now, if that can be wrong, then it is not something that you have faith in already. It is not something you believe in already.
You know, that's the difference between people who believe in religion and people who actually think for themselves. Because people in religion, they just decide, okay, I believe in this. This is the only truth. Everything else is bullshit. And you can't think like that because you lose.
Don't put words in our mouth.
Of the world.
Do not put words in our
You
mouth.
lose
Many of the
perception
people
of the
who are
world.
scientists were religious people. So stop saying just because you believe in some sort of scientism or Darwinism doesn't give you any higher morals or higher ground to tell the people off who believe in religion. Newton, do you know Newton was someone who believed in religion?
Okay.
Gregor Mendel was
was
someone who believed in
religious
religion. There were many scientists, even today, they believe in religion. Doesn't make them any lesser scientists.
Yes, but do they have absolutely no doubts, zero doubts that what they believe in is true?
Okay. I'll answer that question.
Is that the prerequisite
I will
for
answer
a
that
person to be
question.
religious?
I'll answer that question. I'll have to explain to you with regards to the origin of the universe.
The origins
The
of
origin of the universe. This is one question the scientists cannot answer for you. How did the universe originate?
the who?
The universe.
Universe.
Yeah. How did it originate?
Well,
From something or nothing?
okay, let me ask you, how did the universe originate?
Why putting that question back on me? I asked you the question.
Because nobody
Because
knows
you
for
seem to.
certain. It's
you,
way
wait,
far
you do
back.
not believe in God.
Scientists are not gods.
How-
They don't know the
I didn't
the
say they were
answers.
gods.
Humans are flawed.
I did not say they were
They
gods.
don't know every answer.
You
for
said
certain.
we believe in God. We
That's
believe,
the Big Bang
listen,
theory.
how-
That's the Big Bang theory.
Big Bang theory.
Yes.
How did the Big Bang appear or occur? How does it take place?
You all look like a fucking scientist to you, man.
No, you don't. And that's why I'm trying to tell you that
Okay, so Allah snapped his fingers and the world started existing.
now you're mocking or you're asking?
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you about your.
You seem to be agitated. I don't know why. I'm just asking a simple question. How did the universe
why you
originate?
think
You
I'm
don't have to be
agitated.
cocky about it. If you don't know, just say I don't know. I would rather prefer you be genuine
You
with
know.
I will answer after I've got the answer from you. But try
The Big Bang theory.
to be genuine and try to be not just making up things. If you don't know, say I don't know.
Big Bang theory.
Okay, Big Bang theory. How did the Big Bang appear?
When molecules were so concentrated,
Where,
like
where did the molecules come from? Because you went straight to molecules.
You move on to a different discussion now.
No, because we have to, because now we have moved away
Okay, wait,
from
wait.
morality
I don't know.
to God.
I don't know.
Brilliant.
I don't know.
You see, that I'll
You
accept.
tell me.
I'll accept. Let's narrow it down even further. Forget about molecules and
no,
everything.
you
Let's
tell
talk.
me.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Let's narrow it down to either something or nothing. Okay? Do you believe nothing can give rise to something?
I think that nothingness can't be perceived by people.
Does it exist?
It can't be perceived by people. It's a transcendent entity.
Does it exist?
Nothingness is a void. It's nothing.
Does it-
All humans have around them, all humans perceive, is something. The space is something. The air is something. The floor, the ground, the empty space. Look, this space here is something because there's oxygen. There's many gases here. Humans can't perceive nothingness because we are something.
But we use the
Because
term.
We are imperfect.
We use the term, right?
If you're talking about perfection, it's nothingness because you can't.
Perfection is not nothingness.
It is.
I'll tell you why.
It's something that can't be perfect.
Listen to the
It's something
question.
that doesn't change.
Listen to the question. Does nothing exist?
I don't know.
Do you use the term nothing in your language?
I do.
If you cannot perceive something, how can you use it in language?
Well, because I use nothing in common language. For example, you tell me that there's a dog over here. I tell you there's nothing here. Well, there are leaves here, there's air here, there's lots of stuff here, but I tell you there's nothing because
Which means you can perceive it, right?
no, to make things easier to explain.
Okay, how would you define
I tell you there's nothing even though, look, you tell me there's a dog here. I tell you no, there's no dog here. There's oxygen, hydrogen, there's carbon dioxide, there's leaves, there's water, there's ground. Okay. That would be the more accurate answer.
How would you
but
define?
It takes very long.
How
it's
would you
very
define nothing?
complicated. I just told you humans can't define nothing because it's.
Can I define it for you?
Define it.
Nothing, to me, means the absence of everything.
Nothing exists.
Is that good for you?
Saying, yeah.
It's good for you? So we can define it.
You can,
Maybe
but
some
it's not
people
a
can't,
perfect definition.
but you see, nothing doesn't even exist. It's like you said, it's abstract. Yes?
Okay.
It doesn't exist. In order for infinity, for example, do you think infinity exists? No.
Again, I can't define it because infinity is a term that can't be perceived by humans.
It's a concept. It's an abstract.
It is a concept.
Yeah, so it's a concept, but in order for mathematicians,
it can't be perceived by humans.
It's in order for mathematicians to use this in a formula, they can use it. You know the symbol for infinity?
Oh yeah, they can use it.
So they can use it in a formula. Okay, in order for communication, it is very important to use certain words in order for us to get an understanding. For example, if I asked you, did nothing create the universe? Or did something create the universe?
I don't know.
Okay, can it come? Logically, think logically now. You have said nothing doesn't exist, and I agree with that. You have said nothing is abstract, I agree with that. Do you think nothing...
No.
Listen. Is it possible, logically, for nothing to give rise to something? Logically.
I don't know what created the universe.
I didn't ask you.
I
now.
don't have the
I didn't ask
answers
you who
in the
created the
palm of
universe.
my hand.
Listen to what I'm saying very clearly.
Listen, knowledge are the tools that people accept to live in their lives. That's that's what they believe in.
You believe
what they accept
You believe in
as
knowledge?
truth.
You believe in knowledge?
I believe in knowledge,
Good.
but it's always flawed.
Do you believe-
can never be 100% certain that something exists and something is absolute true, because there's always ways to debunk.
Well, there are
it.
many things which are absolutely. For example, there is many things which you can say is absolutely true.
You can't say anything is absolute.
Do you exist?
I don't know.
Seriously?
I can't say for.
You can't even know that you exist?
Listen, if
That
you,
means you're not-
listen,
that
listen,
means
there's
you're
a
not sentient.
philosophy by Descartes, which is I think, thus I exist. Which
Sorry, say again?
I think, thus I exist. You ever heard of that?
Yes, it's a philosophical
It's a philosophical-
mumbo jumbo.
Of
It
course,
is.
mumbo
It
jumbo.
is philosophical mumbo
It's
jumbo.
philosophy mumbo jumbo. for
No,
you.
not all philosophy. Certain philosophy is mumbo jumbo.
Why is it mumbo
Okay,
jumbo?
I'll tell you why. Because if you don't even know that you exist or you don't exist,
Well, I believe I
then
exist.
what is your value? What is your value? Everything that you say, everything that you conceive is valueless if you don't exist. You see what I mean?
One thing is to accept that as a possibility. Another thing is to deny possibilities because you just can't perceive
No,
them.
I'm not saying we deny possibilities.
Yes, you are
What I'm
denying
saying,
possibilities.
no, I'm not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all. When did I deny possibilities? What I'm telling you is this: is nothing in existence? Is that a possibility at all?
How did we even come to this conversation? We were talking about consciousness
Yes,
and
we
how
are.
it defines society.
Because all this is important.
Listen,
In
you
order
call,
for
you call philosophy mumbo jumbo.
No, I didn't say all philosophy.
You called
no. Wait.
You call
Do
the
not-
philosophical
do not put words in
view
my- I said
of
certain things.
I think, thus I exist. You call that mumbo
I said
jumbo.
certain things
How
and-
can I argue with you? If you call that mumbo jumbo, if you can't even think about that, how can I argue with you about this?
You know, how can I argue with a person who doesn't know if it exists even?
It's not an absolute. You can't believe that anything is
There
an
are many
absolute.
things
It's
that are
100%
absolute. Many things
certain.
which are absolute.
No, they're not.
I think you exist and I exist as an absolute. I think the shape of the earth, yes, is an absolute. Unless you think like other people that it is a flat earth. There are many things in this world which you can say is absolute.
Then okay. If you know absolute things, then you are omniscient.
No.
Yes. If
You know what omniscient means?
Yes.
What does it mean?
One who sees all,
One who knows all.
knows all. Exactly.
Yes. Do I know all?
Yeah, sees, knows all.
No,
yeah.
there's a difference. Do I know all? I can't be omniscient.
Well, if you know things that are
No,
certain,
but that is not omniscience. You have misdefined the logic of this particular term. Going back to my question, where do you think the universe came from? If you say it is nothing, then you're basically the most illogical person, because you are a person who says nothing doesn't even exist. If something doesn't exist even, how can it give rise to something as grand as the universe, which includes you and me in it? So the only other conclusion, and correct me if I'm wrong, based on the discussion we're having, the only other conclusion is that there has to be something which gives rise to the universe, which gives rise to
which I
everything.
assume is God.
You assume?
I assume that's what you want to say.
No, don't tell me what I want to say. I want to know what you think.
No, I've answered you. I don't know. What's your answer to that?
No, you didn't answer this.
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me ask you the
I
question
told you I
again.
don't know.
Yeah, now you did. So the question to
did a while ago.
what the universe, who created the universe, you're saying you don't know.
Okay, answer me.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
I believe that it is not nothing. I believe that it has to be an intelligent being.
And how did that
Can I
intelligent
finish?
being
Can I
come to
finish? You
pass?
didn't even let me finish.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I said 2 terms and you already interrupted.
Go ahead, finish.
An intelligent designer, an intelligent being, an intelligent entity, yes, brought everything into existence. And the reason for that is because I don't think nothing can give rise to something. Yes, so that is already out. I don't think the universe, which is non-sentient, you believe the universe has consciousness? It's a question to you.
No, okay.
No, because it's important for me to know what you believe about the universe. Do you think the universe has consciousness just like the way you do have consciousness? No, it doesn't. So it cannot give rise to itself because it doesn't even have consciousness. Yes? So if I tell this cup created itself, that will be illogical because it does not have consciousness or the ability to even think, let alone create something out of nothing. Okay? The third thing is it did not get created. Sorry, the first thing is nothing created it. It did not create itself. So the only other thing is there has to be someone or something what created all this. That is the only logical, whether you want to call it philosophical argument, that is conceivably logical. Do you agree? And how? No? Okay, give me another alternative. Go on.
No, I'm not giving you any other alternatives because I want
Well, if
to
you
know.
say I don't know and you say I don't...
Listen.
Yeah, go on.
That's what you've been doing. You've been asking me questions. Now let me ask you a
Okay,
question.
go on, ask me a question.
How did that intelligent being come to pass? How did it start existing?
Very good question. I believe that being is the first cause. It's uncreated. Yes? No one. It is basically something that is not dependent on anyone or anything. It is not contingent upon something else. Unlike everything else in the universe, it is contingent on something that comes prior to it for it to be created. So that being, which I believe is God, which you must have figured out by now, is someone who is intelligent, someone who is capable of creating, someone who is uncreated, someone who is the first cause, and someone who is the one who's got all the power and the ability to do and create all this creation that comes into existence. And if you can think of an alternative to that, then please lay it on the table so we can discuss it.
You want me to tell you an alternative to, for example, saying that the animals and the living beings that exist now haven't been created by an intelligent being?
No, go on, tell me.
Do you know that 99.9% of all species that ever existed on Earth are extinct?
So what?
If an intelligent being created those species, why did it just destroy them like that?
Why not? It's his creation. Who are you to tell
but
him
why?
when and where?
Well, where's the reason?
The reason for that is
did they
because,
sin?
okay, let me
Did
ask
they
you.
do something
Let me ask you
wrong?
this: when the species get destroyed, do new species also appear?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not completely annihilation. For example,
Sometimes it was.
Listen. For example, in his wisdom, maybe he doesn't want the humans to live alongside the dinosaurs. Yes, for the well-being of both.
Okay.
Yes, because you'll end up like Jurassic Park otherwise. And God doesn't want that. So you see, when you question, now you're questioning the wisdom of God as to why he does that, which is actually a good thing because now we are making progress. So you have somehow already, I'm not saying you have completely, somehow accepted that this is the only way that we could have come into being. Well, you don't have any other alternatives.
No, I'm asking about your way of thinking. It doesn't mean
No,
I
now
accept
you're
your way of
questioning about
thinking.
why God did this and that.
Yes.
You see, the first point is
Yes,
to
because
acknowledge that
look,
God exists.
No,
And then you question him whether
yes,
he did
yes,
this or not.
You see, that's the thing. I'm getting into your way of thinking so I can understand it, so I can tell you why it doesn't make sense.
Why- what doesn't make sense?
If I always keep to my way of thinking, we will never make any progress. I'll tell you.
No.
this is
Why
wrong,
do you think it
you'll tell
doesn't
me
make
this is
sense?
wrong.
Why do you think God doesn't make sense?
Look,
Because you don't have an alternative. So the only other alternative
because
that
Allah,
makes sense is God.
Christ, or Yahweh
Yeah.
were not the first gods.
How do you know that? It's because they were called with
Look,
different names.
We're back to zero.
Listen,
because
no,
we have
no.
historical records that there have been other religions that existed before them.
I have no I have no issues with other religions. All you're telling me now is that God did exist before. Yes, maybe they were not called Allah or Yahweh or whatever it is. That's all you're telling me. But the point still remains. God
I mean,
existed.
religions existed before.
Hold on,
I'm not saying
hold on.
gods existed
I still have no doubt with that. Sorry, no problem with that. Whether religions existed before, or whether gods were called with different names before, that is not the point I'm trying to make it. The point I'm trying to make is that there is an intelligent being out there who is God, Yes, whether the people believed as one God or multiple gods or called him Allah, called him Yahweh is besides the point. The point is this: there is a higher being who created us all. Do you understand? That is the point I'm going to get to. Because you see, as a human being, you have certain things within you, like your DNA. It is something that is hard-coded in every human being, in every animal, in every organism out there. The DNA code decides to your characteristics, yes, as a human being, and as a male, and as a female, and the color of your eyes, and the color of your hair, everything is pre-programmed, hardwired in there. Now you tell me that just came by itself, without anyone actually putting that program within you?
No, man, it didn't just come out on itself. There were years and centuries and millennia of evolution.
How do you know that? This is speculation. How do you know that?
You know the amphibians.
Yeah.
The amphibians. The amphibians are basically frogs and those kinds of creatures.
I know what the amphibians are. What about them?
They can live underwater and they can live on the surface. Do you know a kind of fish? I forgot the name of that fish, but it can come out of the water and it can use its, limbs to move around on top of Earth.
The point is?
My point is that's proof of evolution. We are seeing different links that link, fishes, mammals, and in the middle between them, there's a fish.
How do you know that is evolution? How do you know? Maybe God programmed them to walk on the earth. Maybe God programmed those amphibians to live in the water and in the earth.
That's a possibility.
Wait.
But that's the thing. I don't consider anything as an absolute truth.
Wait. The DNA module that is the DNA that is present in every living organism, yes, is something which is so complex. Yes, you see, before the scientists were saying that maybe only a fraction of the DNA is something that is useful. 90% of it is useless. Today they've come to the understanding that 90% is not useless. That junk DNA is something which also has other functionalities which they are coming to terms. There are many places on Earth which still haven't been discovered. There are many places underwater which still haven't been discovered. So listen, I'm only talking about the Earth. Yes, the Earth is a very small planet in our solar system. And the solar system is a very small part of our galaxy. And the galaxy is a very small part of our universe. It's in fact a small fraction, like a grain of sand in a big desert like Sahara Desert. It's a speck. Yes? Now we are talking about the speck within the speck. Us human beings have only discovered the speck, yes, from the entire universe. So do not say that there is no possibility out there of God.
I never said that.
Okay, so you believe there is a God out there?
No, I think there's a possibility that
Are you an agnostic then? You're not an atheist.
Okay,
At least we have made progress there.
let me. I never said I was an atheist.
Okay, my apologies. Are you an agnostic
right.
or
listen,
an atheist? Because we need to understand.
Listen, you gave me the example of the grain of sand, the speck inside of speck inside of the speck. That's a very good example. Now, I tell you, seeing that we humans only know a speck inside of a speck inside of a speck, and you and I as people only know a little fraction of what humanity knows overall, which is, I don't even know how to quantify that little kind of amount of information. How can you be absolutely certain that God exists and the God you believe in is the right God that exists?
Okay.
If you only have that little
I've already explained this to you.
How can you know?
I've already explained to you that logically it's impossible for something to come into existence from nothing. So the other alternative is that there has to be something. And in order for that something to be of such power and such ability to create all this, that something has to be non-contingent. It has to be independent of everything else. In order for it to be logically to make sense to you, that God, what I call as God, is someone who is beyond our comprehension. However, we don't have to understand God fully. All we have to understand is that there is something out there, someone out there, who has designed all this, who has designed from the minutest things in our existence, yes, like for example the DNA that we have, yes, the code of life that we have. I don't think that came from nothing. And neither do I think that evolution is something, has got the intelligence within it to bring about such complexity within us, and to such precise detail, to such precise ability that it defines you and me as to who we are, the color of our eyes, the hair, how we basically will look in the future within our progeny and so on. This is something I don't think comes about by non-intelligent beings. And like you said, the universe doesn't even have consciousness. How do you think all this come into existence if it doesn't even have consciousness? I think there is a designer behind all this. And this intelligent designer is someone who designed all this. I don't think it's by chance. It is something that has been designed for a specific reason by a specific entity, not by chance. And if anyone says otherwise, then they are only shooting themselves in the foot because they cannot tell me that nothing has caused all this or all this is by accident. You see, accident is something that happens chaotically. There is not an order in chaos. But I see order in the universe that we live in. Yes? For example, the society, the very society that you live in has some sort of order. Every person has an innate nature to
Society
identify.
has an order. Order in society is necessary for humans to survive. That's why they made up that order. That's why they created their ideologies, their cultures, their way of living.
how
That's
did
why
it
they
come
created
about?
religion to be a tool in surviving as a society. You know, that's where our conversation started. That's what I really wanted to talk about. Society itself. Society itself.
you're talking
You know,
about
the
a being.
mentality of people, the consciousness, the conscience
Where did it
of
come from?
people is their
Where do you
God.
think all that came from?
It's look, people made it up to
No,
to
your
live better
consciousness,
with
where
each
did it
other.
come from?
To be able, my conscience.
where did it come from?
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
It's two things: nature and nurture. Progressive nurture by generations and generations of humans was put in their nature.
I don't think I understood my question.
Humans evolved because they were
It's nothing
creating
to do
a
with
society
evolution.
to live in.
Shall I tell you why? Let me ask you in a different way. Let me rephrase the question. Do you think your consciousness is material or immaterial?
Do you mean immaterial?
You know what material means?
Human thought is basically a bunch of electric discharges
not.
in their brain. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You're talking about brain.
Their memories,
Wait,
their
wait, you're
thought,
talking about- you're talking
are
about-
electric discharges in the
You're-
brain. That's why you can't.
No. Your electromagnetism within you or within your brain or
Yes.
whatever it is, that is not what your consciousness is. If you think the changes that happen in an MRI, when you see the changes happening in the brain, is what your consciousness is, then you are completely mistaken as to what the consciousness really is.
How do you know what consciousness really is?
Okay, let me ask you what thought is.
You know,
What is thought? Thought is something that
what is your
your thoughts.
thoughts?
Yes? Do you think your thoughts is something that a computer or a machine created by scientists is able to decipher?
To decipher?
Yeah. Like, can anyone say what you're thinking?
Well, not yet, at least.
do
That
you
kind
know
of
even-
technology hasn't been invented yet. At least as far as I know.
And this is where I go to material or immaterial. Because even electromagnetism, even electricity, yes, is not immaterial. So let me ask you again, is your consciousness material or immaterial?
Do you know what an AI is?
Yeah, artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
What is that going to
You
do
know,
with this?
nowadays AI is rather flawed, really. It's not very intelligent. It kind of has the intelligence of a toddler. If you just program it, and it won't be very intelligent. But it's evolving. With times, humans are creating better AI, more intelligent AI, which, if it will become very intelligent, it won't be that different from humans. In fact, it will
You
be
think
more
it,
intelligent
you
than
think it has
humans.
consciousness? Yeah.
Consciousness, self-awareness, you mean?
Yeah, consciousness.
A conscience. It won't in the beginning.
How do you know it will in the end?
I don't know. Maybe it will.
Even the
if we develop it enough, it might have. You know, there's many.
You know what? Artificial intelligence basically boils down to a bunch of programs within a particular machine or a particular computer. Yes?
Yeah.
All it does is you give it a set of input and it gives you a set of output based on the program within it. That's all it is.
Humans are not transcendent to that.
humans are.
kind of like that, except that they're much more
Humans are,
developed.
for example, if a human child who has not been trained, yes, is given a certain task for its age. Say even a newborn baby. How does it know that it has to breastfeed? And how to breastfeed? How does it know?
Instinct.
Based on what?
Based on evolution, on human evolution.
Yeah,
You
which is what?
Animals
No,
know
which-
that they need to go to that specific spot to feed on milk.
Which is what?
That's instinct.
Which is what? Who trained it?
That's like programming.
No, who programmed it? That's a good point you made.
It's
That.
the
Who
species.
programmed it?
Look, who programmed
No, because you said it's like programming. Who programmed it? Because you said artificial intelligence, or even a computer, a one-day-old computer, or one-day-old artificial intelligence machine with that capability. It's not something that just comes about from nowhere. The human beings, the human beings still have to program it, still have to feed it information. Who fed information to that child or that baby kangaroo to suckle from his mother from day one? Who did? Who trained it?
Look, there's a difference. There's a big difference between nurture and between nature.
I know.
By nature, in this case, I mean instinct.
You know,
the
when
thing
you-
that
when you use the term
that is
nature-
hardwired in your head. Who programmed
who hardwired it?
Who programmed the deer to start walking a few minutes after it was
Who did?
born?
Yeah, tell me who
But
did.
humans can't do that.
No.
The human
Hold on,
children
hold on,
can't
hold
do
on.
that. Why
I
is
didn't say
that?
they were all sick.
Because the human brain is much more developed and it has far more potential than the
You're
brain
missing,
of the
you're
deer.
missing the point.
Humans are not led by their instinct. They're
You're missing the point. Shall I tell you why? Because just like you said, it's hardwired and it's programming a deer to do X, Y, and Z from day one. My question still remains: who programmed it?
It was evolution. That's what I believe in.
Why does it have to be a who? I mean, I'm not even talking about. He agrees with you and I agree with you on so many things. But the bit that I don't agree with is when you say it's a he or it's a god. I mean, why does it have to be? What if it's a force? What if it's an energy? What if it's
How long have you
something
been
like
standing here?
that? A while.
A while? Okay. Just like I asked him the question, do you think something created the universe or nothing?
I think an energy created the universe.
Energy is something,
I'm a
right?
spiritual person. I believe in the
Right,
universe.
right.
I believe in
Do you
God.
believe energy is something?
But you put a label on it, which is called God. And when you put that label on it, you create division.
But you call it a
in
label
society.
for energy.
Well, no.
Same thing, it's just semantics
Well,
now.
whichever way you look
That's what I'm saying. You see, you put a label on energy.
there's some truth in everything you're saying.
Hold on.
There's an element of
Hold on.
truth.
Shall I tell you
It's
why?
not 100%.
Shall I tell you why energy doesn't work? Do you know the first law of thermodynamics?
You were funny, Diana.
No, because if you don't know that, then you are. When you deal with energy, yes?
All right, let's call it consciousness.
No, consciousness.
Yes.
Consciousness is not energy.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
If
No one
consciousness
defines
existed
consciousness as energy.
before the creation of anything,
Yes?
then you're agreeing
Because
with
you see,
him.
energy is something
You're
that
agreeing
can
with
be
the
defined.
existence of God.
Energy has a particular definition in the
None of the people here, not including you and myself or this gentleman here, none of us are that smart and that clever to be able to say factually that this or that is God and God created this or that.
Well, give
It's
me
a
an
belief.
alternative.
It's a belief. It's not a fact.
Well, I can say
And
the
that-
same thing
and
about
then-
energy, the
and
belief that you have.
the
And you don't
wars,
even know the first
all
law of
the
thermodynamics.
wars, all the stress, all the division in society is caused by people saying, this God said this, or that God said that, and these are the rules you have to live your life by. That's the only difference. If you take energy, physics, if you take consciousness, it's here, look. This is God. This planet is God.
Can I ask
Where
you?
we're standing
Can I ask you
today.
something? Do you believe consciousness is material or immaterial?
I'm not going to answer that question. because
If
it's
you don't want to have a
both.
discussion,
It's both.
then I will have it with this gentleman because at least he was answering the questions. And in order for us to have a communication and to get to know each other within society, we have to communicate. Of
course.
Yes, and it's also important that we are sincere with each other.
Of course.
Yes, and that's the reason I would respect a person who tells me that I don't know, rather than evading questions which are crucial to this discussion. Yes, because you see, in the first law of thermodynamics, it basically states that energy is something which is neither created or destroyed within a closed environment. Within a closed environment. You see, the closed environment that we're talking about, for example, if you take a cylinder of oxygen, there is energy within it. Yes? And there is energy within our universe.
Yes. It's only changed. It doesn't become
Yeah,
nothing.
it goes from
metamorphosed
one state to another
into
state.
something different,
But
yeah.
the important point here is that within a closed environment.
Yes.
Before the universe existed, there was no closed environment. So what form was energy in? Now this is the crucial question you need to think about if you're thinking about energy. Because many people bring up this point about energy without understanding what energy really is. Because you see, energy and matter are something which people say are existing in the universe, but the point remains, what existed before the universe existed? What form was energy in? You see, these are the questions neither scientists nor people like you who believe in energy are unable to answer. And that is why I say God. If you don't like the label God, call it an intelligent designer. If you don't like the call that,
fine
many
with the
people use the
label of
term
God.
nature.
It's not the
You know, many
thing
people
I'm
call the
against.
name, like the way you said nature and nurture. This nature, to me, is something that, like the terms we use, hardwired, programmed, the little deer which is able to walk, an elephant which is massive when it is born, yes, but is able to stand up in a few hours or something and walk. This is something which is nature, but to me, that is something that is hard-coded by nature, or rather I would say by God himself, programmed within that animal or within that human child who is able to have the information within it to suckle from his mother from day one.
Okay.
To be able to cry when it needs something, when it's basically spoiled the nappies, it is able to cry and inform the person who's taking care of it.
That's a good example because
See what I mean?
sometimes something weird happens and children don't cry when they are born.
But you're talking about exceptions, my friend.
Sometimes
I'm
it
talking
happens.
I'm
Well,
talking
if it's
about
so
general.
hardwired, then why does it happen?
Okay, you know something about, you know what exception means? An exception is something which is not something which is found generally. For example, there are many human beings who have a photographic memory.
Yes.
You know about this person? He basically flew in a helicopter.
I know about
and
him.
he's able to, just by looking at the city, he's able to draw it.
I know. If I'm
Every
not
single detail
mistaken,
of
he was an autist, and
He had autism.
He had autism,
Yeah.
and
He had
he-
autism, and
be-
this
be-
is
he-
so. This is what I'm saying. Look,
because
there are
of that, he had
exceptions
that
in
memory.
everything, but exceptions do not make a rule. But generally speaking, like I said, every organism has DNA, has pre-programmed information within it, and this is something which we, as human beings, have to acknowledge and accept that it did not come about by chance.
exceptions don't make the rule, but they make it obvious that the rule is not an absolute.
What do you mean rule is not absolute? Of course, rule is absolute.
No, if there are exceptions, that means that the rule is not
Which
an
exceptions are you
absolute.
talking about?
For example, the baby not crying.
Yeah, what about it?
That's an exception.
To what?
To the baby crying when it's.
What is the point you're trying to drive at?
I'm trying to explain to you that anything that you see as absolute truth is not as absolute as you
So
think.
you're telling me there's no absolute truth at all?
There isn't.
So what is the point of this discussion?
Well, the point
Because
of
you
this
will never,
discussion
you will
is
never
it's
ever.
probability.
In
What
your,
is more
in your
probable
mindset,
to be
nothing can be
successful?
true. Is that right?
Nothing can be
true.
absolutely true.
Why would you say that?
Well, because everything that you say or what you think might be wrong.
Okay, let me ask you.
There's a small possibility.
Let me
always
ask
a
you.
small
If you see
possibility.
something with your eyes, yes, and hear with your acknowledge with your five senses,
Okay.
yes. If you do not even trust your senses, then whom are you going to trust?
Nobody.
Then you wouldn't trust anyone in life.
That's how
You're going to
faith
live
exists.
you're going to live your
That's
entire
where
life
faith comes from.
doubting everything.
Of course.
Then you're going to become super, what do you call that? You're going to be skeptical about everything.
I know, but look, that's
And
the
if you're
difference.
going, if that is how
There's
you're
a
going to
big
live your life,
difference.
you're going to have trouble everywhere.
No, but listen. There's a big difference between that and what I actually think. It's that it's okay, it's okay to believe it.